I'm Jono Buchanan, and in this video we're going to be looking at the basics of working with effects processing in Logic. I've got two separate tracks within this piece, and together they sound like this. Before we actually get to effects processing, there's one thing I'm going to show you, which is how to set up a loop around an area. What I want to do is to not have to constantly press play and stop. So what I'm going to do is to click here in bar 1 and simply just drag out over the area where I want a loop to be created. And you can see that this yellow or orange bar has appeared above the bars in question, and you can see that the loop icon is on here as well. If I toggle this on and off now, this cycle or loop will now just play, so I don't have to keep pressing play and stop. So within this project, I've got two separate parts, and for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute the lower one, which is playing a bass line, so we're just focusing on this track here. Down in the left-hand corner, we've got a volume control for this individual track. We've got a pan dial as well, and further up, we've got a range of individual, what are called insert slots. And you can see here, it says audio effects. Now Logic ships with tens of effects in different categories: EQs, compressors for dynamic changes to your sounds, reverbs, delays, all kinds of different sounds. And what I want to do is to take this sound and place it within a space, add a reverb to it so the sound has a slightly more cinematic quality. And the way that I'm going to do that is to click here where the first available effect slot is and simply click. And when I do that, up come a list of individual effects which are available to me. And you can see that these are categorized in different areas. And the one that I'm interested in is reverb, and I'm going to select Chroma Verb, which is a artificial reverb creator. It allows me to control the sound or the space in which this sound is going to exist. Now the way that this interface works is that I've got, first of all, a chance to choose the type of space in which the sound is going to play. And at the moment I've got a room reverb set up by default, which sounds like this. And this light display is showing me the frequency content of the sound that is triggering this reverb. So how much bass there is in it, how much mid-range, and how much treble. And we can hear the individual frequencies contributing to that reverb. Now, before we move on to hear different spaces, what we've got down at the bottom is a range of controls that allows me to set up how this reverb behaves. So at the moment, my room has a decay time, a reverb length in other words, of just over 1 second. Here's how it sounds if I increase that to something much bigger, like 6.5 seconds. Particularly when I press stop, you can hear the long decay tail on that reverb. There are other things I can control. How far am I away from the sound? That's controlled by this distance control. I can set up an attack time. In other words, how long it takes for the reverb actually to sound after the notes feed it. So we get a little bit of a gap between the dry note and then the reverb that follows afterwards. I can change the size of the room, a whole range of other things too. And over here on the right hand side, I've got individual controls for what we call the dry signal and the wet signal. The dry signal is the amount of sound that comes in which has got no reverb on it, so the original sound without reverb. So that's its volume control here, whereas the wet signal is just the reverb, so the amount of reverb without any dry signal. So with these two sliders, I can control how much of the dry signal I hear, how much of the original sound, and how much reverb. So if we play back and listen through some of these parameters, we'll hear how the reverb can be changed. So you can hear that there are a number of ways in which we can shape the reverb to suit the sound, and this is just for the room algorithm. If I click where it says room, we have a chance to choose a number of different spaces as well. You can see there's a chamber and a concert hall and a theatre, and this synth hall area, which is an artificial space which is perfectly geared towards working with synthesized instruments like the one that we're listening to now. There are also sort of more digital reverbs, things that feel a bit more pristine and contemporary. So when you're working with Chromaverb, you have a chance to choose all sorts of different spaces, and each time you select one, the screen will update to show you the algorithm that you've selected here at the top, and you've still got the same set of controls at the bottom so that you can hear the differences and begin to shape the algorithm of your choice. What I've also got within this window is I've got these individual controls over the EQ of this sound. At the moment, I can hear that the bass response of this sound is pretty flat. It's not being boosted, turned up or down. But further up, we can see that towards the treble end of the sound, at the moment Logic is bringing down the volume of the brightness of the reverb here at the top, and there's another individual node here. Again, I can control these. I can click on them, I can choose the frequency that I want to cut or boost, and I can then shape the reverb even further like this. So using the synth tool, let's again hear how we can use these EQ nodes to change the tone of the reverb that we're working on. So you can hear that we're using a process here called filtering out certain frequencies. As we, in particular, scoop out all of the bass by making a big dramatic change like that, you can hear that the top end of the sound is becoming very fizzy and airy, and we're losing all of the weight of the reverb at the bottom. So what we've done so far is we've set up Chromaverb here on the first insert slot on this particular sound. But if I bring the bass line back in, and in fact, if we solo that for a moment, what we'll discover is that there is no reverb on this sound. And the reason for that is clear if we open up Logic's mixer. Here we've got both of our sounds side by side within the mixer environment, and of course, because we only added Chromaverb to this first sound, it's not present on the second sound. So of course what that means is I can set up an individual reverb on this second sound to allow me to create a reverb that maybe is more fitting for this second sound. Again, let's just solo it for a moment and use the room algorithm to create a reverb for this second instrument. So something shorter and punchier and with some of those bass frequencies rolled away feels like it's a better fit for this sound. Let's listen to the two side by side, and now we've got two separate reverb solutions for our two sounds, and we can even have both of their displays open next to one another so we can compare them as we listen. So what we've done in this video is we've set up a first insert effect for these two sounds within this project. And in both cases, that's an instance of Logic's own Chromaverb, but we've created different reverbs for each sound to match them.